Hello again, everybody, and once again, we welcome you to yet another edition of Journey Through Sports and Entertainment. My name is Scott, along with the dynamic duo, the M&M twins. Hello, ladies. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. This is Marjorie and Marnie. And Marnie, this is your special guest for us today, so I'm going to just throw it over to you and say, go for it.
All right. Well, thank you. Yeah, so I'm super excited because we have a very special guest today, my dear friend, David Cho. Okay, so what makes David so special? Well, David is a world-famous feng shui. And I kind of fell in love with all the things that feng shui does and can do.
Can you spell that for us?
No, but
Okay,
we're going to let
just
David do it.
Exactly.
So I'm not going to continue to explain what feng shui is. We're just going to let the master, the world-famous feng shui, David Cho, take it away. So David, can you explain what you do and why it's so cool and why it works?
And what feng shui is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I practice this ancient Chinese art called Feng Shui. It's spelled F as in Frank, E-N-G, S as in Sam, H-U-I. And what it is it's the study of environmental energy, specifically your living space, and how you can manipulate it and change it to affect tangible results. And those tangible results, as you know, we Chinese, we're very pragmatic people. And what we're looking for is to get results that can be measurable. And those results involve better wealth, health, relationships, fertility, and love. And so since this is a sports-based podcast, I like to describe it to my professional athlete clients as that they should be looking at their home as a playing field. So whether they're playing football, golf, basketball, even shooting pool or tennis, everyone knows that you don't win the game because you always have the magical ability to make the trick shot or the lucky shot. You win the game because you put yourself in position to make the easy shot. And that's the beauty about traditional classical feng shui, is that we can calculate applying these ancient formulas to determine where in your home you need to be either sleeping, working, or chilling so that you can make the easy shot to achieve wealth, health, and more. And so once you've got that down, that you add a little bit of fire here, you add a little bit of water there to activate the energy, and you're on your way.
So David,
Very interesting.
when did this practice, I mean, how did this whole feng shui art, because I think it is an art form, when did it start? What is the history of it? And when did you become interested in it?
Well, it started thousands of years ago, but then it was all through these empirical observations where they would record when crops grew and when they didn't grow, when different calamities occurred, or when people died, and even when the grunion ran. But then about 1,200 years ago, so this is recent history in Chinese, in the Chinese calendar, the original geomancers or feng shui masters were able to codify all of these different events into 3 discoverable factors. And those factors, especially now with our availability to information, are that all you have to do is know the footprint of the house, the magnetic direction in which the house receives its sunlight, and the year in which the house was built. And those 3 factors enable me to determine exactly where I need to place you in a home to achieve these specific results. And I was just joking with a client the other day, and she was a merchandise manager for Tiffany. And she remembers that I had a 15% discount with Tiffany and Company for all the baby presents that I had to buy for clients who were able to get pregnant and see those pregnancies to fruition over the years. So anyway, so that was kind of a nice thing. But, the thing is, a lot of people think that there's a whole superstition to this, and there really isn't. So you don't have to really buy bamboo flutes or jade frogs or these other talismans and hang it in different parts, or shake chicken feathers or chicken feet over your food to make things happen. In fact, I would say that I send more people to Amazon Prime or even to Home Depot to buy these different elements that can affect these different objectives and aspirations that a person has. So if a person is looking for for more money in their life, I send them over to Home Depot and have them pick up a cattle trough, put it in the right part in their house. And what that cattle trough acts as, once they fill it up with water, is that it acts as a satellite dish. But instead of for receiving television signals, it receives money signals. And so if you install that cattle trough from Home Depot in the right corner or on the right side of your house becomes a money, literally it becomes a money magnet. And then once I determine where you need to spend time in your house to close those deals, all you have to do is buy some little tea lights from Amazon Prime, light those things up, and you'll be able to close the deal on those opportunities.
So, I mean, and I believe all of these things. Now, what about, okay, so what have you worked, when you've worked with athletes, do they have a request that they always want or something that they ask for? Or do you just go through the house and say, here's what you need to do? Or how does it work?
Well, most athletes are they're pretty normal when it comes to their aspirations. And it's not just exclusive to athletes. Unless they're unhealthy, which of course we can heal them if they're rehabbing or if they have an injury. But mostly the people I work for, including athletes, and I probably evaluate 1,000 properties a year for people, they're looking for money and love. So like, say, for instance, I don't know of any athlete who I haven't had to amplify their charisma so that they can keep their love life going. And that's a real simple matter. Like, say, for instance, of determining in your bedroom where you need to place a specific combination of flowers and colored vases to attract love to you. And I'll get off the athlete thing a little bit, but because, again, it's not exclusive to athletes. I remember years ago, I did a talk for this community service. It was called the Jewish Family Service. And there were probably 80 seniors there. No one was under the age of 80. And I thought, well, gee, what I'll do is that I'll have them apply feng shui to ensure that they stay healthy and improve their sleep patterns. Well, hell, even before I got into the second thing of sleep patterns, they were already fidgety. They didn't want to hear about health and sleep. All they wanted to hear about was how to amplify their sex appeal. And so that's exactly what, I mean, I don't care how old you are, you're never too old to get that portion of your mojo working.
Right,
I was going to ask where in my house is that money and love? Because I'm going home this afternoon. I want to check that out.
Right. So, I mean,
I'll tell you, Scott, if I was talking to your wife and if she thought that you were getting a little bit long in the tooth, this is what I would do for you. Do you know your Chinese sign?
I do not.
I don't want to ask you for your date of birth on air. What about you, Marjorie?
I don't.
You don't?
No.
Okay, well, Marnie is, I know Marnie's a monkey.
She's
So
a
let's
monkey?
say that
I'm a monkey. My
Scott
Chinese
is a
zodiac
monkey,
is a monkey.
all right, in the Chinese sign, because there are 12 animals within the Chinese zodiac. Marnie's a monkey, and let's say that Scott was a monkey. What I would do is have your either you or your wife take your smartphone and you click on the compass feature. And what you would do is that you're in your bedroom, standing or sitting in the middle of your bedroom, and you turn around once, rotate around once. I don't know if you can see me doing this, but hold on. I'm rotating around one revolution so that I can calibrate my phone. And then I'll continue to turn it, rotate it around in your bedroom until you get to, if you're a monkey, if you get to 270 degrees west. And that's when you stop. Look beyond the phone at the point of the wall that the phone is facing. And you put a red or green glass vase that holds about a gallon of water, and you put yellow flowers in it. And yellow or orange flowers, fill it up with water, and that becomes a satellite dish to make you more attractive, charismatic, and attracts new relationships to you. And also makes your wife make you more desirable to your wife.
I was going to say, my wife's not going to be too crazy about that if I'm attracting people like that.
If anyone calls you up, then just hang up before she sees you. That's all.
Okay, so you were saying that with the monkey. I just looked up and I'm the rooster. So
You're the rooster.
How do you know?
You do? Okay, you look up while you're looking yours up, Scott. Marjorie, what you do is, again, why don't you try that right now?
Okay.
Hold your phone as if you're taking a selfie.
Okay.
And just spin around in your chair to calibrate your phone. Do you have it on compass?
No. Here, let me find it. Find the compass. Okay. See, I don't. I'm so bad with finding my apps that I don't want to take too long here.
Oh, you should just borrow Marnie's phone.
Yeah.
Because I think
I'm
she's
looking
got
up
an
Scott
iPhone.
also to see. You said 1960. He's a rat. He's a rat.
Okay.
This is your year. Scott's year is coming up. He's a rat.
No, Scott's year was last year, and Scott actually shares the same direction and combination of flowers as the monkey. So rats, dragons, and monkeys is 270 degrees west in your bedroom. You put a red or purple glass vase, fill it up with yellow or orange flowers, holds about a gallon of water or a combination of that, and that will amplify your charisma and good looks.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so I've got my compass.
You have your compass.
So now you want me to go in a circle.
Now you got yours. Hold it up. Hold your phone up like you're taking a selfie.
Okay, so like this.
Now turn in your chair once to calibrate the phone.
Okay.
Well, look at that. It turns. Look at that.
I have the compass set up for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's unreal.
Okay, now what you do is you turn until you get to 180 degrees south as a rooster.
180 south. Okay, I see it here.
Don't go too fast. You're going like you're in a fire drill
I
or
already
something.
knew where it was. Okay, so here I am, 180 south.
Okay, now remember, you're actually in the center of the room, and what you're doing is that the part of the wall that's behind Scott's back. That portion that your phone is pointing to is where you get a green glass vase, and you put red or purple flowers in it.
Oh, okay.
Real simple.
That would be okay.
So let's say, for instance, if this were if the room that you're in was your bedroom, you try and stand, and you may have to even sit on your bed to get to the center of the room, and more than likely that 180 degrees south spot is actually directly behind Scott right now, right?
Yes.
So I'm the guy you're looking for.
Now, I can't guarantee the quality of what shows up. All right?
The quality of what shows up.
You're going to have to,
Thanks a lot.
Then you'll have to talk to me about compatibility.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That's what you do. And so each one of the signs, you can actually it's just a simple matter of getting the right colored vases and putting the right flowers in the right location within the bedroom.
What if your sign doesn't match the person that is on the other side of the bedroom?
Well, then you got to get a third party involved. You got to spice it up then. But I'll tell you though, Scott, the one thing that makes life really interesting is when they're 6 years apart. Because whenever like say for instance, for your sign, the sign that's opposite the rat is the horse.
The horse?
And a horse. And they're typically 6 years apart from your sign. And then, like, say, for instance, for Marjorie, it's a rabbit. And then for Marnie, with Marnie being a monkey, is a tiger. And those signs, you have your fun and you move on, because those cannot sustain a long-term relationship.
It's so it's so fun to hear about all these things. Okay, so what about mirrors? Are mirrors good in houses, or where do you put mirrors? Some simple things that our viewers can do without just to improve certain things in their home or their life.
Oh, well, we could talk about mirrors, but mirrors don't really have that ability to attract good fortune and at the same time repel evil spirits. And because the mirror just isn't that smart. In ancient cultures, before glass is invented, they would use sheets of metal and polish that to look at their reflections. So if a feng shui master in the old days said, Marnie, you need a mirror on that wall, what he in effect was prescribing was a big sheet of metal to absorb any pain or delays. But it's just that over the years, people imbued mirrors with this mystical ability. Now, in terms of what we offer the viewers or the listeners to this podcast, is that you don't really know where you can put a mirror where that big sheet of metal is going to absorb any potential that could cause pain or delays. So what they are interested in is money. And so instead of telling them, I just don't have enough information to tell them exactly where to put a mirror, Marnie. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, just with your smartphone, I can tell them where to put water, where the water would act as a money magnet at their home. And so if you want to hear that, I can give you
sure.
that.
I think everybody wants to hear about money.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think anybody's that's a bad idea.
For wealth, we use water to act as a satellite dish or to turn your home into a money magnet. But before you do that, or not just you, but anyone in general, is that you have to have a service or value or product that you can offer to the world so that the world can in turn reward you for your efforts. And so, but what happens is that the water, again, is very simple to the location of where you need to put that water, again, is a simple application that, again, involves your iPhone or of your smartphone. So what you do is that you, instead of standing for, like, say, for instance, for charisma and sex appeal, you're standing in the middle of your bedroom. For wealth, all you do is try and stand as close to the center of your home's footprint or floor as you can. And again, you hold your phone as if you're taking a selfie, calibrate it with that one revolution. And then after you have it calibrated, you rotate around as if you're taking a selfie until you get to 0 degrees north. And at that point of you look beyond where your phone is pointing, and you put a big tank of water or a water feature outside of that part of your home. And that tank of water, that body of water, will act as a satellite dish
Outside?
to attract wealth.
Yes, it would be outside
would
the
be
home.
better.
And
However,
does it have to
I've
be
lived
moving
in-
water or just stagnant water?
No. It has to be circulating water. So let's say, for instance, if you live in a single family home, then you could put it on the outside. And you can do it very quick and dirty. Again, you can get a cattle trough from Home Depot or from Tractor Supply Company. It'll cost you less than $200. You drop a 400 gallon per hour pump in it to circulate the water so you don't get Lyme disease or mosquitoes growing in it. Plug it in and you're up and running. Now, the thing is, you guys are in Austin or in Dallas?
Dallas.
Okay. Last time I was in Dallas, it was snowing and I slipped and fell on my ass. So I know it gets cold there.
Mm-hmm.
So what you do is that you get a de-icer that costs another $40, drop it in the tank, plug it in, and that will keep your water from freezing when it's cold out. And that would be for a single family home. However, if you can't do the water outside, then you put the water inside at that 0 degrees north point. And instead of course, you're not going to do a cattle trough. What you do want to do is, like, say, at least a 4 foot high, preferably 6 foot high, 72 inch tall waterfall at that point, and that becomes your satellite dish for wealth.
At 0 degrees north.
0 degrees north. So again, since you're pretty good and since you've got your phone out, hell, I ought to make Scott do it.
Yeah.
Where are we going to, 0 degrees north.
Bring out
0
your
degrees
compass
north.
and go circle around. And so he didn't even know the terrace went.
Well, I've got this on here.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Let's have Marjorie do it.
Okay. Let me get my compass. Okay. So now I circle around and then I get my.
Yep, go ahead and calibrate one circle to calibrate.
Okay.
Okay, now continue turning until you get to 0 degrees north.
I'm going to get dizzy. Okay.
You should share out because you don't.
Okay, here we are. 0 degrees north. There we go.
So that would, again
that
that's
against that wall.
outside of that wall. If this were a single family dwelling, or if this was a condo or a townhouse or an apartment, you do the water inside. at that point that it's
Okay,
that
at that
your phone
wall.
is pointing to.
But you're out of water.
Oh,
And you have to have some sort
now,
of.
that's a good point, Scott, because people are always asking me, well, how much water? Just got to remember, and the old guys, and now I'm one of the old guys. They used to say in Chinese, "Big water, big money." So the more water you have, the more money you have. Now, with charisma and sex appeal, you don't need that much water because you don't want to attract some, like really huge person. So all you need is about a gallon of water. And if you're like me, and that's the thing that feng shui does, is it because you can get a whole lot of results for not that much effort, it makes you lazy. So if you don't want to have to go to the store and continually purchase new fresh flowers, instead of the colored glass vase and the colored flowers, what you can do is go to Amazon and pick up a doggy drinking fountain that holds about a gallon of water or 4 liters of water, and you put that in that spot. And the fact that water is active and kinetic because it has a built-in pump, it saves you the trouble of having to replace your water on a weekly basis.
wow. Okay, this is really interesting.
And this really works, huh?
I'll tell you, I've been doing this for 30 years, and my significant other, first of all, she's not Asian, she's not Chinese, and so she's this British German white girl, and she's a social scientist. She's got a PhD from UCLA, so she's a smart one in my operation. And whenever we go to an event, the first thing people will do is try and get her by herself so they can ask that exact question, does it work? And her response is always, well, you know what? I've been with the guy for 20 plus years, and, I could write it off as a coincidence. But it's just that these coincidences happen on a regular basis. So as a social scientist, I can't say it works or it doesn't work, but I can say that he consistently gets results. So there's the answer right there.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that isn't an answer, is it? I don't know. You take it for what it's worth, Scott.
Oh, that's
What do you
interesting.
think, Marnie?
That's
I
interesting.
think it works.
You've done this? You've tried this?
Yes, that's how I met David 30-something years ago.
Oh, you've known David 30 years.
Yes, a long time. And
So were you the answer to one of his twists and turns?
well, we did not use. I was not
No,
back
that
then.
was
before we
the
had our,
information age.
Yeah. But David came to my house when I lived in Los Angeles and, gave me an entire system that I do think worked, whether it was putting in a fountain or moving things around, putting my bed in a certain direction. And sometimes, you hear what his requests are and you're like, that's going to look awful, but you're like, all right, whatever, it's fine. And it works. I mean, part of it is that you believe it and but there is a science to it and a method to it, and then I think you do see results. Also, you might want to envision the results happening as well. Right. But
How did you meet?
I don't even remember because I was living in Hollywood. This was a long time ago, and so I was like, I'm interested in feng shui, and Google didn't even exist then, and somehow I got connected to David. I probably looked in a phone book. I don't even know. I
can't remember either, but I'll have to say that Marnie's husband at the time was he just liked to sit at home and play with his little toys. And so he
Yup, you said it, not me.
Do you even remember his name, Marnie?
Well, yes, I do.
Yeah.
I tried not to, but yes.
This is certainly a way.
It's just that He went from playing with little kind of like transformer type figures to being a big deal in the entertainment industry.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
And
Who's that?
Yeah.
Who's that?
My ex-husband.
Your ex?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this is so wait.
David, well, part of it was that I think there were, there were a bunch of magazine articles or newspaper articles that you had been in, and back in the old days, you couldn't just Google somebody, so you found their name, you looked in the phone book or whatever. I mean, this was 30 years ago, and so David came over. He's like, you need to put a fountain here. You need to do this. You need to do that. And we were specifically trying to, do some things professionally for Brian, and it worked. And then suddenly Brian, becomes, he did have a high level job at Paramount and so forth. But David and I stayed friendly, and he's been a great advisor and advocate. So,
Well, we're getting all kinds of way too much information
Yeah,
moments, aren't we?
but I really do
This
believe
is all very interesting.
But I do believe that it works. I mean, originally I think that, what they said was, Feng Shui, what I read was like Feng Shui was started, you build your house in a certain area to keep with water around it, to keep the dragons away. That's kind of the old mythology of Feng Shui. And it makes sense. Like you want to protect your house and the water around it.
Right.
Builds, brings money to you and good fortune.
What's the biggest return you've gotten from all of this over the years?
Well, friendship for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how much money have you made?
I don't know. But I think, enough to fly to Dallas.
One of my clients was responsible for I think for a Super Bowl show a couple of years ago. And anyway, when I first met him, and this goes way back, is that he just spent a couple of $1 million on furnishing his new house, but he didn't feel comfortable in it. So his decorator brought me in to see what the deal was. Well, I calculated the feng shui of the house, and it had extreme feng shui, because typically houses have feng shui that runs gamut from excellent to good to average to bad. His house had extremely excellent and extremely bad feng shui. And it just so happened that he was sleeping in the bad feng shui of the house. He was working in the bad feng shui of his house, but he just spent a couple $1 million furnishing it, so he didn't want to move anything around. We put metal, like the mirrors, but physical metal, using exercise weights in those bad areas to try and absorb the bad energy, but it just wasn't enough. He wound up losing his company. He wound up going to prison, and I thought that was the end of him. A couple of years later, he called me back and he said, I bought another house. This time, I want you to plan the house where you position me in the house where I'm going to absorb the good mojo in it. Did that, and his career rebounded. He had a hobby of that he was able to sell for $1.5 billion, and to this day, I still see him for his yearly updates. So that's the difference that living in, both houses had identical feng shui. And that's the difference between living in good feng shui and bad feng shui. And that is just one of, I can't say too much about him because, I have a bunch of NDAs signed with people. But yeah, it can make a big difference as long as you have something of value that you can contribute to the world. Because, another thing is that I had a girl who called me up and said, David, I put everything in place, but I've got the water going, I've got my candles lit, but nothing's happening. And I'm listening to her, the background noise. And I said, well, gee, that's because all you do is you sit home and you watch Oprah all day long. So, you gotta be an active participant in your life. But if you are and you have value that you can add to the world, Feng Shui is gonna make that happen for you.
So when I first heard about it was several decades ago, and a very rudimentary understanding, and all I really knew, and even now until talking to you, is that a lot of it had to do with placement of furniture, not necessarily getting new furniture like you're saying.
Right.
It was like the room had to be more open or something like that. If you walk into a room, you don't want to see the back of the couch, that kind of thing. Did I hear something a long time ago that is just doesn't make any sense, or is there still something to that, and could rearranging some things in that bad feng shui have been enough besides just putting weights and all that? I mean, how does...
No, it's all about, as I said at the beginning, it's all about positioning you. Like, say, for instance, if your living room is bisected by two zones of energy, which is very common, if your sofa is in the bad zone of your living room, nothing's going to happen for you. You're going to make bad decisions. It's going to take away your initiative, and it's not going to reveal opportunities to you. So then what I'll do is that I'll move your sofa to the good side of feng shui. And regardless of whether that I don't care where the back of that sofa is facing, as long as I've got you in the good feng shui, things are going to start happening.
Okay, so then that is different a little bit from what I...
So that's the thing, is that, there's mostly everyone who practices feng shui doesn't do as a full-time job. They're probably working at the post office on the weekdays, and then, picking up a job here and there, and that's it. And so those practitioners of feng shui typically know feng shui up to feng shui 101. But in order to really apply feng shui, you've got to know all those ancient formulas, because there is no such thing as one feng shui. There's no such thing as one size fits all, because there are actually 216 combinations of energy grids that apply to a home based on its footprint, its specific magnetic direction, and the year in which it was built. And so unless you can know how to work the formulas and interpret them, you're really practicing a pretty irresponsible level of feng shui, because if you burn candles in negative energy, well, that fire is going to exacerbate that negative energy. So, like, say, for instance, for a rat, depending on what rat you are, it can cause a kidney infection. It can give you a blood disorder, or, like, say, for instance, certain, and then other rats, depending on what they are, it can cause back pain. So there are all these different things that can occur if you burn candles in the wrong space. And the only way that you know where to burn candles in the right space is if you know how to work the formulas. However, there is something that's universal, and that universality of feng shui is that you put water at 0 degrees north, it's going to attract money to you regardless who you are. And then depending on what Chinese sign you are, you put those flowers in certain places, it's going to amplify your charisma and sex appeal. That is for sure.
So let's say somebody's watching this show and they want to try some of this, but they don't know you, or they don't know where they can find somebody to do what you do. How do they do that?
Well, you can give them my, I don't answer the phone, and I don't work, I only work by referral. So I don't have a website. I don't have a business card. So what I'll do is that I'll leave you. I'm already giving them quite a bit to play with already. Sex appeal and wealth. If they want more specifics about their house, then they can reach me by email.
Okay. Well, thank you.
And so, David, has the business changed? Has Feng Shui, has it changed in the past 30 or 40 years? Or
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And the biggest change, and you've alluded to that, Marnie, is the internet. Because before, in order to determine the magnetic direction of a home, I'd have to use a Chinese compass. And those things are notoriously inaccurate. And even the phone compass isn't that accurate, but at least it gives you access to a direction. And so the internet has completely changed that, and smartphones has changed that. The other thing is the year built of a home. You'd have to before the internet, you'd have to search for it in escrow papers. You'd have to contact your property manager, or you'd have to turn the lid of a toilet over because the date of the toilet was manufactured was stamped into the bottom of the lid. And so you'd have to go through all these different machinations to find this information before you could calculate it. And now I can probably, like I said, I probably evaluate. Today I've already evaluated 7 properties for people house hunting in different parts of the country. And I can do that very readily because of the internet.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. I'll tell you what, David, we've got about 1 minute left in the program. So I just wondered, what is the takeaway that you would like to leave all of our viewers and listeners with tonight or today? What would you like to share with them?
Oh, that's a toughie. The thing is, people look at Feng Shui. I think typically people think of Feng Shui as a vehicle to create peace and harmony. And while that certainly is true, that's not all that exciting, And so what's exciting is if they can apply Feng Shui to get tangible results. Because if you have enough money where you don't have to worry about going out to dinner or going on a trip once in a while, and you have someone who loves you, or you become a very likable person, then those tangible results will result in peace and harmony. So in other words, they shouldn't be looking at peace and harmony as their first line. They should be looking at wealth and love as their first aspirations that will get them to that state of peace and harmony.
Peace and harmony, right. Very interesting. Yeah. Well, I tell you what, this has been a whole new world for me today.
Yeah, Scott, we learned your Chinese zodiac.
Yeah.
You too, Marjorie.
That's right.
People have called me a rat in the past, but I didn't know I was a real rat.
Oh yeah, no. Your tail is definitely showing even from far away.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, David, we can't thank you enough. Continued success, and thanks for all you continue to do. This is just fascinating. And we hope to see you again.
I'm around.
Yeah,
you know how to reach me.
Okay.
Yeah, great.
It was a pleasure.
Okay, thanks again.
Yes,
yeah, we've got to go get some water troughs and flower vases and
look, we're out of water right here. We're out of water.
You're on your way now.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
David.
Thank you.
Thanks again, David. And Marnie, thank you. Great guest that you brought us.
Yes,
thank you so much.
It's fun to learn new things.
It sure is.
Mm-hmm.
And it was new for you too, I know, wasn't it? It sure was. Mm-hmm. Well, For Marnie and Marjorie, and of course David, I'm Scott. Till next time on Journey Through Sports and Entertainment, stay safe and be well.